I'm Microsoft Dynamics CRM Solution Architect and Microsoft Dynamics CRM 8 times MVP. And I'm also C# Corner MVP, and I do speaking, and we conduct training session, and I have also authored a couple of books for Dynamics 365 and Dynamics CRM. So today we are going to start a short series for the Power Platform Fundamental exam. So this is the first session where we will be discussing two modules today, module 1 and 2. So let's get started. So here we have basically we are going to discuss two modules today. In the first module, this will be introduction to the Power Platform, where we will be discussing what are the component, what are the tools that is included part of the Power Platform component and the platform. And that in the second one, we will be discussing the common data service, which is now Dataverse. So this is the second module that we will be discussing in today's session. So let's first have a look into that, the weight of this topic. So this complete exam is basically divided in mostly 6 modules. So there are 6 modules that basically you can divide this complete exam. And there is a particular percentage of the question that will be covering these modules. So for example, we are going to discuss these two modules today, which will be covering the 15 to the 20% exam questions from this certification. And then we have this Power BI capabilities, that will be the another module, which will be same 15 to 20. So this may like this kind of that possibility that this can take from 15 to the 20% question from these particular topics. Okay, there are like topics for that capabilities of the Power Apps, what we can do in the Power App, all those details. That is another module. And then we have one module which is basically Power Automate. Earlier we used to know it with the Power Flow. That is also going to cover 15 to 20%. And the last one is the Power Virtual Agent, where we build that chatbot apps, and that is going to cover 10 to 15% questions from the complete exam. Okay, so this is the whole exam. This is how this whole exam is divided on these topics and the percentage of question that may come from these topics. Yeah, so let's get started with our first module today, which is Power Platform Introduction. So you may have heard these tools or these application earlier. You may have been reading this, or maybe aware of these component already. But so if you know then these component already, then it can help you to brush up your knowledge. Or if you don't know these, then you may get new things about this Power Platform. So this whole Power Platform, basically, we can see here. So we have these main component that is part of the Power Platform component. So if we start with the Power BI, the Power BI is the first application that we can say this is a all of these applications that we are talking about here is the cloud applications. Okay, some of them also we can access from the desktop as well. So but mostly primarily they are the cloud applications. The first application, the Power BI, which is basically the tool for the analytics. Here we can build rich reporting, and we can build a dashboards, which is basically connect to the different data sources. So you can connect from their Excel files, from the SharePoint, or from the CRM, or from any database. So they provide different options to connect with. You can use the web API, or you have another options to connect to your database, and then you can design your charts, tools, and dashboards and all those. So this provide a very good and strong business analytical tool that is a part of the Power Platform. Okay, and the second app that we have is the Power Apps. The Power Apps is basically help us to build that applications which is basically mobile ready or any device ready. You don't build them, particularly which will just target that one device. It can be, run on the different devices. So we will see in all of these, we will see in much more detail. Just I'm giving introduction here on this one. And the third one is the Power Automate, which is basically a you can call it like a workflow engine. This basically help us to power automate our process. So if you are working with any business and there might be some kind of task that you want to automate, so Power Automate help us to do those kind of things to automate that kind of task for us. Power Virtual Agent. Power Virtual Agent is basically, help us to build self-service, you can say self-service apps where we don't need any kind of manpower, and we can build a app which is kind of a chatbot. Mostly website you will see this type of apps now available, where you can just type your question and you will get the response, right? If you are not satisfied with the response, maybe in the last you will get some more link to directly connect them to, or to call the support guys. So that kind of thing we build on the Power Virtual Agent. And all of these application basically, here we have three main component that is connected with all of that application, and these components are available to every applications here, every tool here. The first is the data connector. The data connector is nothing but a way to connect your database. So that database can be, as I said, that it can be different database. It can be a legacy file system, or it can be a web service, or it can be a any application. So these data connector help us to connect these applications without writing any kind of code, or without writing any kind of script for us. So we have that hundreds of connectors available as a part of the platform, and that connectors are shared with all that applications. That connector you can use in Power Apps, and same connectors you will see available in the Power Automate, and all of these tools basically share those data connectors. AI Builder capabilities, that where we can utilize the data which is coming from these applications, and you can apply the AI capabilities on there and to extract that data from there, so that like how this data is working on, and if you want to fetch some important information there, so you can utilize that AI capabilities on that. And Dataverse is the basically cloud database where this apps basically store their data. So earlier we used to know it like a common data service, but now we call it Dataverse. So it helps us to store our data on the cloud application. So if you are working with the Power App or the Power Automate, so every application stores some kind of data, right? Whether it's a metadata or the organization data or the actual user data. So those type of data is stored on the Dataverse. So this is the whole Power Platform in the, in a single picture here. And now let's talk about this individual, components. So the first one that we are going to talk about is the Power Apps. The Power Apps is basically a power development platform. You can say very critical, application or tool in the Power Platform, where we can build lightweight applications, where we can build data-centric applications, and where we can build very rich, responsive apps. Okay, and that app, as I said, we can run from the web, means the browser, we can run from the tablet client, we can run from the mobile client. So it helps us to build different device centric applications. So if you are rendering on one application, and let's say you are using on the mobile, and then you open on that on the browser, or maybe you open on the tablet client, so it will render it accordingly based on the device size. Okay, so it helps us to build those kind of applications. So we can build here different type of based on your requirements. So whether based on your business requirements. So for example, let's say you want to build some time set and entry application, or you want to keep track of your stock, Okay, so how many items you have in the inventory, or maybe you want to build some kind of approval applications. So those type of applications you can build here very quickly. You have templates available. So there are some of the out of the box template that Microsoft has provided. You can select those template to create these application, or you can start from the scratch. So you can start from the blank, and then you can start designing your own application. You can create your own data model, or you can utilize some of the basic data table that is available on the Dataverse, and you can utilize to that connect to your application, right? You can store your data on those table, or you can create your own application, own table, custom tables. You can also modify them. So for example, when we will work on the module 2 today, I will show you that demo on that, how these environments are there and what are the different objects that is available for us. So we will discuss that time. Okay, so this is how we can build our Power Apps application, and we build basically two type of application, or maybe we can say that in the Power App we have option to build application of three types. We can build Canvas app, which is considered lightweight app, and where we don't we don't work with the heavy data use. So that is for the very light weight you can say that any lightweight task, or any small task, or maybe kind of quickly that you can complete, that won't take much time. So those kind of thing we built using the Canvas app. Whereas the model driven app, that is basically totally data centric app, where we heavily use our data, and that we can create basically, where for example our sales app that you know in the Power Platform, we have different applications like finance and operation applications, customer app. So those are basically the model driven app. And third one, we can build on the portals. We can also build portal app, where we can build like a website, and for that we can expose the data through the Power Portals to our customers. Okay, and that allow us to extensively modify that complete website based on our requirement. Okay, so that's what we have, the Power App, that help us to build different type of applications. Now, the second component that we have is the Power Automate, that we used to know earlier is the Power Flow, Microsoft Flow. This flow help us to, as I said, that automate your business processes. So let's take an example that in every company, when we are working, we have a leave management system, right? Or we have a salary management system, or we have a approval management system. So whenever you apply for the leave, that leave go to the your lead, and from that lead go to the manager, or maybe upper manager or something, and then when they will approve it, based on that you get the response. Yes, your leave is approved. So those kind of thing earlier we used to do manually, right? You are sending mail to one person, and then he's sending mail to another person. So that kind of thing, basically now we can utilize here the Power Automate, and Power Automate help us to automate this complete process. You can build, you can design it here. You don't need to write the code. Most of the thing here you can do it from just drag and drop. This is just a very, you can say it's a very low code application. Yes, sometimes you need to write some expression, and you need to write some request. If you are making some HTTP request, or you are making some custom connector, then you need to write the code. Otherwise, you can simply drag and drop and configure those changes, and just decide how your application flow is going to work, like what are the steps you need. And then here basically we have two things. One is the trigger. Okay, that you need to decide that when your flow or the Power Automate is going to start. Okay, so for example, you see on the top here, this is like when a new email arrives. That is basically the triggering point for this flow. Okay, so as soon as you will have that email reached on this mailbox, this flow will trigger. Okay, and after that we start actions. The actions are basically after triggering what you want to do. That's how we have basically actions here. So you will see different list of that actions when I will show you demo on that. So you will see list of actions available. For example, when the email is coming here, you may parse that and get fetch data from there, or do different kind of action. So those type of thing that is available on the Power Automate. Earlier this was part of the cloud service only, but now we have the desktop Power Automate feature is also there. Now you can use the Power Automate with your desktop application as well. Okay, so this is second component that we have, Power Automate. The third one is the Power BI. So as I said, like here, you can see that this is basically the dashboard and Power BI application screenshot here. And you see here, we have the different dashboard that is created. So this Power BI basically have a very rich capabilities which help you to design, your dashboards and your charts using the different data which is coming from the different type of data sources. So you can have that, and you can utilize them, and you can create ad hoc analysis. So ad hoc analysis is something, let's say for example, you see here, this is the mobile application, right? So in you are opening that Power BI report in the mobile. If you quickly want to check, okay, how many sales so far, okay, how many orders we have so far, how many items are pending on the inventory. So we can see that here, like you can see the graphical user representation is available here. So you don't need to quickly look for your complete table and look for the data. You can just tap to your mobile and open that Power BI report, and you can quickly see the data, right? And the Power BI also allows us to write that Power Query, which is simply you can write your question and then it can respond you based on the question. So that kind of facilities are also available in the Power BI application. Okay, and as this is like the other application, this can be also consumed, you can consume it from the different devices, just like you can use from the desktop or mobile client or the tablet client. So this is available in every device. Okay, now Power Virtual Agent. So as you can see here in the screen, you might have experienced this kind of application when you're, looking or browsing any website. So for example, if you will see bank websites, okay, so if you are logged into your bank account from the net banking, you will see there is an option to that, that customer support. Okay, that customer support, you will click on that, and then you can start typing your question, and there are predefined set of questions that is available. Maybe when you will start writing, you will get those question available there, and whenever you will select any of the question, you will get the predefined response, right? So there are basically KBs, or there are basically the questions and answers pre-configured behind the scene, which helping you to get that response. So that kind of application we can build with the Power Virtual Agent, and these are very common nowadays, where basically we don't need much manpower, so we can save our time, and we can help the customers to help as a customer self service. Okay, so they can you can basically, here you can see that we have this link, like you just click on that link and it will render you that response. So you don't need to depend on someone. You have, once the response recorded into the database, it is coming from there, right? You're writing question and you're getting the response. So those kind of things we have available in the Power Virtual Agent. Yes, of course, this is like these you can see there are different templates that is out of the box available, which we can utilize. So Microsoft has created most common templates, which basically required like approval or set of questions and all those. So those you can use, and you can also utilize that AI driven options here. For example, from the responses or the questions that is you are getting from the public, you can use AI capabilities and extract the insights. Okay, so for how many questions or which very common question you are getting. So if you don't have very good response for that question, you may need to create responses, so that further when you get the same question, you can provide the response, right? So those kind of thing we can build on the chatbot using Power Virtual Agent. And very important part is the dataverse, because as I said, all that application basically store the data here only, right? And earlier we used to know it like a common data service. So this dataverse basically provide you a data model. There are default data models or default you can say that table availables which you can utilize. So these are basically common tables. So for example, customer table, your lead table, opportunity table, contact table, user table. So those type of things are available on the dataverse, and you don't need to create it. But if you see that there are some information which is not available on the these tables, you may need to customize that, and you can customize that table, and you can add your new attribute. Okay, in the demo we will see how we can add these attributes, and we can create and what are the tables that is available. So all the structure that you will create new table or you modify, everything will be stored in the dataverse, right? So they are available, and but if you want to customize or extend, you can do that. Okay, and this dataverse data can be integrated with any application that is available for this Power Platform, okay, by default. But if you want to integrate with the other applications as well, so you can have like Azure integrations, and you can set up that integration and use it. It provides basically the API support. Okay, so you know that like in when you are working with the cloud application, most of the cloud application don't provide access to the tables directly. Means that actual SQL, the backend, they don't provide that access to the backend, right? What they provide you the support of the web APIs or the APIs which you can utilize to get the data from that particular application. So let's take an example of the Dynamics CRM or the Power Platform or the Power App. Okay, if you want to get the data from any of the table, so there are API available, and which API you can utilize, and then you can extract the data from the database, and you can utilize the data, or whatever you want to work with the data, you can do that. Okay, so those type of things is available in the dataverse. Okay, so now data connector. So as I discussed that these data connectors are basically the primarily use of the data connector is to connect with your data and data like tables, and fetching the data from there and utilizing the data. So we have like all that applications that we have as a part of the platform like Power Automate, Power Apps, and Logic Apps. They can have they can utilize the same data connectors. We have hundreds of connectors that is available, which is provided by the Microsoft, and other vendors also provided that connectors which you can utilize. Some of them are free, some of them are paid, so you can utilize them and perform or do your operations. But if any point of time you see that we have a specific requirement, but that existing data connector cannot fulfill our requirement, then we can go ahead and create our own custom connectors. Okay, the custom connector means just developing something custom API. Okay, so you can have that create a custom connector, and similarly your custom connector can be also utilize all of these applications. Okay, you can utilize on the Power Automate, you can utilize on the Power Apps, or whatever application that is available in the Power Platform that can be utilized, right? So you have different approaches that you can create custom connectors. For example, you can just like we have the templates available, but you can also start from the blank custom connector. You can use the open API definitions. The open API definition is there is basically a standard. So when you develop some kind of applications using APIs, so for example, the open API is primarily related to the REST API. So there are basically some set of rules and standards that you need to follow. So those kind of definition is basically the open API available, which you can use. You can also create it from the Postman. So the Postman is basically a application which basically we use to connect or test our APIs, or do that kind of connection to our environment. So this Postman collection is something where the collection basically where we set up our environments or any variables or the parameters that is required for us, that we use here for the Postman. Okay, so using Postman we can create our custom connector, and that can be utilized in the different applications. Data sources. So now we are saying like, okay, we will use the data connector, but what are the data sources that we can use for the data connectors? So basically we have two type of category here. One is the tabular data. Okay, the tabular data is basically the tables that I'm saying we have available. So you can see here that this in the screenshot we have different tables available, like account contact. So these are basically tables that is part of the Dataverse. Okay, so you can utilize these tables in your data connector, or you can use the function based data. The function based data is something that you are going to utilize some out of the box functions ability that Microsoft has provided. Okay, so very common example is, let's say for example, you want to you are working with Power App, where you want to utilize email capabilities. Okay, or you want to utilize that you want to implement the user management there. Okay, so you can utilize the Office 365. So in the Office 365 we have option that user object is there, which user object you can utilize to get that data that is related to the user. For example, you can say like from which department this user belongs to, what are the email details and all those things. So that kind of object that is available, which we can say that these are basically the function based data that help us to get the data. So similarly, that is we have also from the Azure as well, like Azure Blob Storage, those type of thing we can also utilize as a data source for our connectors. Yeah. Now, so we have already discussed here that when we are building this connectors, so we basically two things similar to the flow. We have two things like trigger and the action. Like we need to decide that when our data connector will start working. Okay, so which means when it will be trigger. So trigger can be a different event. So you can just consider a trigger as a event. So when this event will happen, when let's say for example, when new record is created in my Canvas app or in my model driven app, then I want to execute some process, and there I want to utilize this connector. So that is basically the trigger here. And action is again the same, where what you want to do in response of this event. So just like while you are working on the programming, right, when you are writing let's say scripting, like on click of this button I want to perform this action. So similarly here, when this particular trigger will happen, after the trigger, what action you want to perform, that's how these actions will be decided. So that's how your connector will be decided. Okay, when this trigger, and now what action your data connector is going to perform. Yeah. So these are the two things that decides on the connectors basically. Now we discussed about that what are the Power Platform component, what are the things that is available here, what are the tools that is available here, how we can utilize those tools to build a different type of application. Apart from that, in the whole Power Platform environment, so we have some options which basically for the data loss preventions. Okay, the data loss preventions policies, like for example, you can create particular policy for your environment, or you can create for the all the environment which is part of your the tenant, and there you can decide your policies like, okay, if your data is transferring from one application to another application, or you don't want to allow applications or the connectors to expose your data from the tables. Okay, so those kind of data loss prevention policies you can apply on the Power Platform environment. I will show you in the demo that from where we can create these kind of policies and how we can select those kind of connectors. So by default there are some connectors already available there, but you can do those type of things from this. This is can be done from the Power Platform Admin Center. Okay, I will show you this on that. And then we have the compliance and the data privacy. So this is from the Microsoft. So whenever you are buying subscription from the Microsoft, they also provide you some kind of, certification and attestation that, okay, we are basically committed on that, providing you that compliances for the, and keep your data private. And they, like for example, you must be heard of the GDPR. This is basically that information that you cannot expose the information of any table or any user. Let's say for example, if you want to store the email ID or those type of thing related to the particular user, you need to have standards on that. You need to have compliances on that, that you are authorized to store those kind of information. Otherwise you cannot store user information into your table. So that kind of thing is basically comes under this compliance as data privacy. Okay, and the third option that we have is the accessibility in the Power Platform. So whenever you are building any application from as a part of the Power Platform, Power Platform also have the tools which is available, which you can utilize to check that if there is any problem in your application or the app that you have built while accessing, the user may face any issue while accessing this application. So there are checks available there. This particularly command is there. So it just like I will show you that I can basically clicking on that, it executes some set of operation and checks your application is valid and there is no issue, and user not going to face anything while accessing this kind of this application. So that kind of check is available as a part of the Power Platform. Okay, so this is we have from the module 1. So this one module is completed here. Before jumping into that module 2, I want to hear if you have any particular question. Just feel free and let me know if you have any question we can discuss so far.
Hi sir, this is Chandrasekhar. I have one question regarding what is common data service and common data model. What is the difference?
See, basically the common data model is the structure, the table structure. Okay, the set of tables that is defined there, like generic table, as I said, that account and contact and lead and all those things. That is basically the data model. And whenever you build any application, all that applications share the same common data model. So that's what we call the dataverse. Okay, and the common data, this is basically, earlier we used to call it like differently with the common data model or common data service. Okay, but now we call it dataverse, and that the service is also basically, you can just think like, for example, if you are let's take an example. If you are writing any .NET application or any other party application, you have the table, and you want to show the data from the table into the UI, right? Whether it's a web application or website or window application, you need to write the code to get the data from the table and render on the the UI, right?
Yes.
But here, as a part of the Power Platform, we don't write any code to send the data to the tables and the bring data from the table. That is automatically there. So that's the service basically provide us that automatically the posting of the data to the data models from the UI and fetching that data from the model to the UI is automatically done, and that is part of the Power Platform. We don't write any single line of code for that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So any other questions so far? Otherwise, we can go for that module number 2. Okay, so let's start module number 2. So in the module number 2, we are going to discuss this. This will be little more interesting here, that because we are going to discuss about that environments, tables, entity, and relationship, and the common data services. That what we discuss here. Right? And then we'll see this what I said, like common data service and common total model and business rules we will be using here. Okay. So let's start with this overview of the Dataverse. So as I said here, like now the common data service, the basically, if you say here like that data base storing a set of standards and the custom data structures called entities. Okay, so now basically we don't call it now entity, we call it table. So now in the entity there is no terms like entity. They have recently changed when they changed the Dataverse. So they have changed that, now we call it tables. So the common data service is basically the database which is storing our standard and the custom data structure. So for example, like account and all those table, or we create our own custom table. Okay, so those kind of thing that is available here, which is basically part of the Dataverse or the common data service. Now, the common data model, the set of open source standardized extensible data entities and relationship, so part of the open data initiative. Now, okay, this I understand that this is a little bit confusing here, but just consider, let me take it from very simple manner. So common data service, it's basically the set of table which we use to store the data, right? Now we are saying that we want store and store the data on that UI. We are saying that in the Power Platform we can do that integration between applications, right? We can do that integration between CRM and the business central. We can do the integration between CRM and the finance and operation, or maybe we can do that integration with the uh, uh, some application from the Power Platform and some application which is not part of the Power Platform. So how this data is going to match, because we are talking about two different applications, so they may have a different data structures, right? So the common data model is basically part of the open source and standard rules which follow to set up those tables. And so for example, if you see like in CRM we have account, but in the business central we have customers, but their data type and most of the the attribute that is part of these tables are common, and their data types are basically converting easily. You can transfer the data from this table to the other table without bothering about the data conversion. Okay, just like in the .NET we have that when we want to do the data from one data type to another data type, you need to do the typecasting, right? And some of them easily transfer, some of them you have to explicitly doing the typecasting. But here they have created this model, data model, in such a way that you don't need to particularly transfer the data type. It is, this data can be easily transformed from one table to the another table and one application to the another application, because they are following a common data model standards, right? So that's how we have here is the Dataverse, which is basically combined a combination of common data service and common data model. Okay, I think Chandrasekhan, this should be more clear to you now with this
Yes,
example.
yes, sir.
Yeah?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So now we know that what is the Dataverse. So what is basically that, tables and the fields. The tables, just like this, you can consider it like a SQL table. So again, I'm saying this is not updated here. This is not, now we don't call them entities, we call them tables. These are basically set of tables where, just like the SQL table, we can create our data structure if we want to store information of particular information. So for example, let's say we want to store our customer information, our vendor information, our opportunity information, our finance information. We can create or utilize out of the box tables, or we can go ahead and create our own custom tables. You don't need to write any kind of script. You just need to drag and drop, and just you need to follow the steps. Okay, I will show you in the demo how quickly we can create our table and fields in the table. Okay, so the fields are basically columns of the table. We have there are different data types which is part of the data platform, the Power Platform. So we have different type. We can create character data types where you can store the strings and chars. You can create numbers, you can create currency, you can create date type, you can create option set, you can create boolean like true or false. So there are different data types which is available in the Dataverse. Okay, and which help us to set different type of source databases. Now, so we said that, okay, we have the table, and we have under the table we have the column. But sometime when we are working with the tables, we have requirement to connect these two tables. Okay, so for example, let's take an example that you are keeping track of your expenses. Okay, and let's say you created one table, and that table you store the month wise entry, that okay, expenses for month of June or May. Okay, and just give me 1 second. But for this expense, there may be different entries. Okay, there can be different entries. So you want to create another table for the line items. That line item will be basically storing the entries for particular month, and you want to connect that one table to the another table. That's where we use the relationships. So relationship, basically we have two relationship here. One to many means you have one table that can be related to the multiple other records in from the another table. So we have one parent you know table, and another one is the child one. So in my example, what I was saying, the header where I will be storing information about the monthly expense, that is the parent table. And where we have the detail of like, okay, this day date wise expenses, that will be a child table. Okay, many to many means sometime we want to associate one many table to the many table. So for example, let me take example of a student and teacher. Okay, one many student can be associated to many teachers, right? Because they have subjects, and basically they, depending on the subject, there may be different teachers for those subjects. So those type of relationship we can associate using the many to many relationship. Okay, so this is how. And we have like one to many and reverse of that, many to one. So mainly two type of relationship we can set
Yes.
Yeah, please. Could you please say again what was your question?
Yeah, just now you explained the tenant and environment. Okay, I understand. But what now normally we call in Dynamics 365 org and tenant instance environment. These different terminology we are using. What is it actually? What is the exact difference?
Yeah, so basically, this tenant is something which is, you can just in a very simple way, if you want to take, tenant is nothing but a subscription that you are buying. Okay. And now under the tenant, we have different environments, and this environments is basically a new terminology. And if you want to say in the traditional Dynamics CRM, this is nothing but a organization.
Okay.
So we like now here, I'm on the admin power platform here, and you can see if I click on the environment, this is nothing but the organization. So I have two organizations here that I have created. So this is basically one organization, and this is the another one that is provided by default. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you have, this is my trial, I am not able to I cannot create another one, but in the new button you can go ahead and you can set up your environment. If you have paid one,
Okay.
you can go ahead and you can set up, so like production, these are different options we have when we can use for setup that environment. And this is the region that where you are going to set up your environment. So for example, based on the data center, so all these are location, basically Microsoft have their data center. So for us, our data center is in Bangalore. Okay. Create the database, so it will set up the dataverse for this organization which you just going to create.
Okay.
And here you can select your different settings, for example, which will be the default language in your organization or in the environment. You can set up that here you can select that name. Here this URL will be provided by default automatically, but you can click on here and provide the custom one, which currency you are going to use, okay, as your default process. You want to enable some default apps, that is basically the traditional first party app that is coming from the Microsoft, like customer service, field service. These are first party apps. We call it a first party app as well. And then when you will save it, it will go ahead and it will set up a new environment, or in another word, it will set up a new organization. But right now it won't allow me because I don't have, this is the demo environment. So it won't say that I cannot create it because there is a limit of the 1 GB now. Okay, so this is, and when we are in the admin portal, we have here, we have different options. So this is the data policy that I was saying here. We can define this data policies, like you can click on that and you can say, like, let me just quickly test. And here you can say that which are the connectors, connectors for the non-sensitive data. We can set up that connectors in this group cannot share the data with the connector in another groups. So those kind of things you can select and say that, okay, these kind of these things, they cannot share the data with the another group. So those type of things that is here, which is for the data policy, which we can set up for complete environment or specific environment. Okay, so let me go back here, and now let me jump into that. So now let me go to here, our environments, and let me open this. So here, if I go here, hold on. So if I go here and I say that let me see. Okay, we can utilize both, so that's not an issue here. Now I'm here on the Power Platform environment where we have different options that you see here from the left hand side. So we can create apps from here. You can select, you need to set up for which environment you want to create apps. So for example, I'm selecting this, and when you will go on the app, you will click here and you have these three options, like you can create Canvas app, you can create model driven app, or the portal. Okay, and in that, when you will see in the down, we have solution. This solution is basically a way to create your custom objects, or the out of the object or the table which is all have is a part of our environment is basically in the solution. So this is the default solution that we have here. And here, if you will see that we have a drop down where we see that all. So we have this all one, and now let's say I'm going to open it here. This is the default solution that I'm going to open. And in that solution, you will see we have different components available, and the table which I was saying that we have different tables available. So I'm going to set it here and I'm going to say table. So it will show me these are the out of the box tables that is available. So you can click on that in the account, and you will see here we have the account table. And under that account table, now it will show you that what are the things available, like you have columns, you have relationship, you have business rules, and all those things are there. Okay, so if you want, you can modify these, or you can also create new on that. So I'm going to click on the add column. So let's say, for example, I'm going to say okay, so automatically this will be coming here. And the data type, we have this data type available, that what type of data type you want to put for your field. Just let's say I'm saying selecting required. You have option like optional, whether user can enter it or not enter it. Recommended, this is also same thing. Required, it won't let user leave this field blank, okay, if you make it required. And this is simply why this you need. This is just a demo field. Okay, and you can click on done, and this will add a new column to your table. Okay, so they based on the field that we have created, so there will be a demo test that is created. Okay, now if I go back to the okay, let me do one thing here. Save this. Okay, there is a small button here, you can save it. I'm sorry, there is another webinar going to start, so that's why I'm a little bit taking it in a fast way. But please feel free, if you have any question, you can jump and ask your question till I'm showing this option to you. If you have any question,
Yeah,
feel free to ask.
Mahendra, one second. Mahendra, this is Chandrasekhar again.
Yeah.
We are creating, I am using customer service hub. So I want to create a solution. I want some customization is there. So each time I want to create a solution and add that model driven, then only I have to move the higher environment, or simply I can create solution and change the modification and deploy the higher environment. How will do?
No, you are saying that you created an application, right? And you
Yeah,
created a
already
custom
I'm seeing.
solution. You
Yeah,
created a custom
yeah.
solution and you added custom object into that, and then
Okay.
you can export it, and you can export it and you can take it to the next environment where for the testing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
depending on that, there is a different way, like you want to keep it unmanaged or managed. So this is that. Okay, so let's say
Yeah.
I'm going to create a event table. This is my custom table I'm going to create, and the plural name where in the view that it will be displayed. Okay, display name, what is the primary field, the primary column that I'm going to say. Let's say I'm going to say event name. Okay, and you want to enable attachment and notes to this table, you can select this, and there are other options as well which you can select, like what type of table it is, like standard table, and ownership will be user and team, or just the organization, means everybody will have access to that without any security permission. So let's say go ahead, create. Okay, So this is how I can create my custom table, and under the custom table, if you will see that here, okay, so it's still doing that. Okay, so you will see now when I created a new table, automatically these fields available here now, right? So I have not created this field, but by default this is coming here as it because of the part of the common data model. So that's why these are available here for us. Okay, so let me quickly jump into that, and let me show you that just the business rule quickly here. Sorry, let me go ahead. And in between, if you have any other questions, so please feel free to ask that question, because I
Yeah,
think
this is
we are
regarding
getting late on.
relationship testing. Actually, I have a two entities A and B. I am creating one-to-N relationship A and B. Automatically by default it will be created B to N N to one in B entity, or it won't create.
Sorry, say again.
Yeah, I have two entities A is A and B. I am
Yes,
creating relationship 1:N from A to B.
A to B. Okay.
Yeah, A to B. I am creating 1-to-N. Automatically it will be created 1-to-N. By what I am asking, it will be automatically B to N is to
Yes,
reverse.
yes,
It will
yes,
be
yes.
automatically created,
Yes, yes,
or
yes.
what?
Yes. So for example, when you are creating between A 1 to N between A to B entity, then automatically if you will see by reversing it from B to A, it's basically N to 1 only, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it will be
that's
created
same.
in backend. It will be
Yes,
created.
yes, 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 yes. It's same thing. Yes, same thing.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm quickly creating here one business rule. So I'm creating it on that entity. And let's say, for example, if I'm saying here that we have one relationship type field here. I'm just checking quickly here, this running late. Just last thing, this is, let's say I'm saying if this is a customer, yes, I want to do one thing. I want to set the value of the field, and let's say I will say here set the address one country value as Delhi. Simple. Just to give you a quick view here, I'm going to okay, maybe let's say name. Let's say I'm saying okay, just quickly here. Okay, so I'm going to activate it, and let me go back here and let me open that account. And let me open that application. Hopefully this should work. Here I'm going to create one. Okay. Now quickly, just give me 1 second here. Okay, sorry, that field is not available here. Let me do one thing actually quickly. And let me change my condition here. I'm going to say here instead of let's say which fields are there. We have phone number. Okay. Okay, I'm just quickly doing one thing here. Just give me one just. Okay, let me quickly start this one here. I'm saying the phone number. Or maybe I will say that account number. Basically, I want nothing, but I just want to select some field from here. So based on that, I can apply this, business rule. I think I'm saying let's say phone number contains data. I'm simply saying contains data. That's it. Okay, and save it and activate it. So now after this activation of this, our business rule will work based on the condition which we have applied. So let's say I'm writing something here, just something, let's say test or something like that. And I'm saying this phone number and save it. So you will see here automatically it populated this name field automatically based on the business rule. Yeah, so this is how the business rules that we have available that we can use for the basic type of data entry and validation, and this can be utilized from that, we can use different other rules as well. Okay, so that's what I wanted to cover today on the module 1 and 2. Stay tuned for the module next module, third module that we will be covering next week for this exam. Okay, and if you have any further questions, you can always reach me from the different channels. So you can always reach me from from the website, from the email, from the C# corner, or anywhere from you can send me an email. Okay, thank you very much, all of you. Stay tuned.
Thank you.
Hoping to you all in the next episode. Thank you very much.
Thank you.